Ready to continue on with Auburn. We'll ask Coach Pearl for a couple of general comments on the game, then we'll take your questions just for the two student athletes and then excuse them back to the locker room, and then we'll finish up with questions for Coach. A reminder, please, when you ask a question, identify yourself and the media outlet that you represent. Coach?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to congratulate Ole Miss on a great season so far. That team is capable of going into the NCAA tournament and making some noise. An older team, group of veterans, and they obviously play the right way. I think just a couple things. Our three-point field goal percentage defense has been pretty elite, and the fact that I've got bigs that can get out there and guard on the perimeter, and guards that can go inside and physically, be able to handle some things. And when you hold a good offensive team like Ole Miss to 22 points in the first half, you obviously deserve victory. Denver was great in the first half, and he's always the best defensive player out there on the floor. And then Janai carries us. He puts us on his shoulders, and he's one of the best competitors that I think I've ever been. He hates to lose at everything, and his teammates know that. So it was a good team effort.
Raise your hand if you have a question for either of the student athletes, and we'll get one of the remote mics to you. Let's start in the center in the back.
Adam Cole with the Montgomery Advertiser. For either of you guys, Chaney hit a pretty big three with about 6 minutes to go, but just for you guys, how big was that as far as momentum shifting and kind of getting you guys?
Is that for both players?
Yeah, for either of them.
Either or both?
Either.
Pick one.
Denver. How about Denver?
Okay, thank you.
Man, that was a big shot. I feel like we had a little slow stretch, especially with a lot of foul calls against us, and they were shooting a lot of free throws. So Chaney staying right and ready for that big opportunity, and he knocked down the shot.
Okay, next question here on the second row on the right.
Daniel Locke with AuburnSports.com. Denver, you had the team's first 6 points. Just how important was that fast start?
I just wanted to come out aggressive, just looking for my shot, just playing basketball, and it just paid off today.
Let's go to the second row on the left.
Questions for Janai. Could you take us through the winning basket that you made when you absolutely had to have it with 11 seconds left?
Well, I know I was going to the basket regardless. Versus Alabama, I faded away for the last bucket. So, I told my teammates, that won't happen again. I'll make it take a better shot. So, I just knew they gave it to me again. They trusted me again. So, I just had to finish for them this time.
Next question, left side, front row.
Denver 5 of 8 from the field, 13 points. This is your third time playing Ole Miss. Can you talk about the difficulties of beating a team 3 times in one season?
Man, it's pretty hard, especially in the conference that we're in. Obviously, they scouted us both times we played them, so playing them a third time, obviously they'll have most of our players pretty much scouted. But Ole Miss is a tough team to play, just the way they guard, the way they run the offense. But we just came out of victories today.
Other questions for either of the student athletes? All right, second row on the left.
Janai, when you get the ball back to the basket, how many options do you think you have?
A lot.
Okay, let's go to the third row in the center aisle.
Janai, you got that 18th double-double to tie Mike Mitchell's program record, and it came obviously at a huge time. What does it mean to have that program record?
Shout out, we said Mark Mitchell? Mike Mitchell. Shout out Mike Mitchell. BP talks about it all the time, especially this season, just trying to, keep trying to make history, and, I play for the name on the front and back of my jersey, so Auburn means a lot to me. So just to be a part of history, submit myself into Auburn history just means a lot to me.
There's time for one more question if anyone has one for either of the student athletes. All right, we'll excuse you. You can return to the locker room. And we'll continue on with questions for Coach Pearl. Let's start on the third row on the left side.
Coach, I could tell you kind of looking over the shoulder watching the game. Whoever you play, it's going to be a big turnout, Tennessee or Texas. What's the message to the Auburn fans for tomorrow that they need to come out strong? We saw a good turnout today as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're not that far from North Alabama, so we asked them last time when we got played in the championship game. I asked them if they might skip early church last year and head on up, and it paid off for us. So it'll be a great card tomorrow. Something that jumps out at me. Okay, today the top 4 seeds are playing. Today, how good was yesterday? Like, forget about the top 4 seeds. How good was yesterday? How good was the quality of basketball? How hard were those kids competing? I mean, I think the SEC's got a lot to be proud of, not just because we hopefully get 14 teams in, but I think our kids in this term, they're honoring the game, the way they're competing, the way they're playing. Like, you can't be disappointed with all these close games, and so it just tells you how good the league is, and our kids respect each other in this league.
All right, question on the end on the second row, and then we'll come to the second chair on the second row.
Bruce, Pat Forty from Sports Illustrated. What's it like coaching Chad? He's a great player, but there's a lot there. How do you kind of manage him?
You know, Dr. Tom Davis was my mentor, and Tom was incredibly patient. And he really did believe that our job, when we get these kids, is to give them some space, let them be themselves. That's where you get the best out of them. At the same time, we recognize Chad's incredibly emotional. He's incredibly passionate, and his moods do swing. They do. I think it's and first of all, some of it, like the flagrant twos, are not acceptable. And I didn't start him tonight. He recognizes he's accountable. But look, the opponents are gonna see if they can get under his skin and see if he'll retaliate. And he just can't. He can't do that. Our guys are pretty hard on themselves. Think about this. There wasn't that much expected from Auburn at the start of the season. Good team, older team, probably won't win the league, but be a tournament team, right? All of a sudden, this team is number 1 in the country for 6 or 7 weeks? And now all of a sudden, a bunch of underdog kids, from mid-major or different levels, now we got to live up to, what that expectation is. And I think sometimes the kids feel a little bit of that pressure. So Chad Baker-Mazara, which one are we going to get? And my point to him is like, look, I don't care which one we get, just from a standpoint of how you perform. He's so hard on himself. I need you to be there, and locked in, and don't let the bad plays affect you to the point where, because he's just too hard on himself. And you could see in the first half he wasn't great. But a lot of those balls that went into Janai Broom went in from Chad Baker-Mazara, 6 assists, 1 turnover. He got a chance to play point guard for us. He really does, because ball in his hands, good things are going to happen.
All right, let's go do you have a question second row, and then we'll come to the first row, and then we'll get you in the bag.
Bruce, I wanted to ask you about Janai's spin move. How does that affect the game for you?
He's old school. He's got old school footwork, and he's got great feet. And I think one of the things that, again, like the play where he saved the ball before it went out of bounds is a play that only a great athlete can make. But because he can't jump, people don't think he's a very good athlete. And it has nothing to do with athleticism. So because of his athleticism, he's got such a good base, and he's able to put you on his hip and go, and spin off of you. Now, everybody knows he's a right shoulder, left hand cover, but if you overdo it too much, he can go the other way. The other thing that he's really good, obviously an excellent passer, not just when the ball's in the post, but also on the perimeter. He's got real good skills and real good feel.
Okay, front row on the left.
Coach, Chris Beard called this a slow defensive game. He also said he didn't feel like they got beat. They just ran out of time. Can you talk about the importance of being able to win a game like this? Usually you guys get off about 62 shots on goal, only 51 tonight, but you shot 45% from the field.
Well, I think, look, we don't win many games. We turn the ball over 15 times. But Ole Miss turns people over 13, maybe 13 and a half. They're one of the best teams in our league at turning people over. Dia was a real problem with 3 steals and jumping out some of those passing lanes. And, Jalen Murray with 5 steals. I mean, so we have got to do a better job of handling that pressure and take care of the ball. And it was almost a factor in our getting beat. But that's what Ole Miss does. That's what they do. They turn you over, and then they get you in transition. I think that, look, we hold Ole Miss to 57 points. I don't know how many times they've scored 57 points all year, and we held them to 57 points. Defense and rebounding win championships, and that's obviously what carried the day.
Okay, question in the middle on the back row.
Ike Jones with the War Report. Coach, you already talked about Chad not getting the start, but Chris Moore got the start tonight. Really effective minutes for him tonight. Just talk about what he gives to you guys, specifically on the defensive end.
Yeah, look, sometimes less can be more, and so Chris out there just setting good screens, running the offense, not trying to look for himself, so the other four guys have more opportunity. And then defensively, he's a glue guy. He just talks, he communicates, he can switch 1 through 5, and that's been one of our strengths this year. Is we switched Ole Miss as much as anybody's going to switch him, and so Chris is he's one of our team leaders. He's one of our captains. Been here 5 years, graduated, and we trust him.
Next question in the back on the far left.
BP, talking about defense, I think they had 2 made field goals over the last 650 or so when they tied the game up, and I think their 6 assists was one of y'all's best defensive performances. Just talk about getting back to the way you guys play defense. I know that was a big focus sort of in that break leading up to this, but just talk about kind of getting that effort and being locked in there.
Well, you know what? Because Chad Baker was in foul trouble, we were running a little offense-defense for him, so it put Chris on the floor, which always makes us better defensively and physically. When you, as a coach, you try to give your kids, what's the formula? How can I trust that if we do these things, we can win? And if you can control your effort and energy on the defensive end, if you can get stops, you can win. Ball's not always going to go in. Team's going to make plays. You might miss some free throws, but if you can sit your ass down and guard, and then limit them to one shot, you can control that. So that was what our message was.
Left side, second row, next question.
Bruce, what makes Steven such a good defensive coach, and what has he done for you guys this year?
Man, such a great question. Thank you. As I get older, I've given Stephen Pearl more, and he's taken it on. And and then Mike Burgomaster is my offensive coordinator, and I've given him more responsibility to play call. And those two guys working together, whew. And so Stephen is he's studying the opponent, he's studying what they're doing, what adjustments Chris Beard makes. Stephen really wanted us to switch in this game, bodies on bodies. He felt really strongly about it. And so his eyes are going to the defensive end. Mike is focusing on the offense. And so I trust those two guys. Billy Donovan, said one time that he said, most coaches are pretty good defensive coaches. Most coaches get their guys to play hard. But the great ones separate themselves on offense. And one of the things that made Billy Donovan such a great offensive coach was he understood defense. He understood defense first. So Stephen understands how to defend. And together, those two guys are a pretty good weapon.
We got time for one more question. We'll take it.
No,
right
our
here.
offensive and defensive coordinators in basketball don't make quite as much as the football guys. Okay, that's the only difference. I got to get my coordinators paid more.
Hey, Bruce, John Huang, NOLA Media. You've mentioned pressure a couple of times. There's a pressure of winning and then the pressure of expecting to be the winner. And in the postseason, everything ratchets up tenfold. How do you personally deal with that? How would you evaluate yourself and being able to
That's,
deal
again,
with that?
such a great question. Listen, because of my faith and my relationship with my Lord, I trust him. And if this is what the plan is, I'm okay with it. And so sometimes that trust takes a little bit of the anxiety away. It just does. That doesn't mean it's an excuse for failure. It's not. But to me, that's really, really important. I want my kids to have that. I do. And, they don't want to disappoint the Auburn family. We go to the NCAA tournament, we don't disappoint the SEC. Because we recognize when we get 14 teams in, everybody's going to be evaluating whether we deserve 14 teams or not based on how we play in the NCAA tournament. And that's not a good barometer. It's not. We deserve 14 teams in because of what we did in the non-conference. And I want all of our teams, including mine, to go in without that pressure of living up to The SEC got 14 teams in. Hey, we're Auburn. We don't have a ton of history in the NCAA tournament, okay? And I want my guys feeling like they're playing with house money, and they still got something to prove. Those are the things that I'll try to do through faith. Try to take a little pressure off them because nobody picked us to win. I mean, look at the preseason. If Duke is 1 and Houston's 2, were they not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 in everybody's poll? They were. Auburn wasn't. We didn't deserve to be. We are now, though.
Thank you, Coach.